Friends, and welcome to yet another awesome session of Mindful Living. We truly appreciate your taking out the time and joining the session today on a Friday evening. Our session today and the one we are going to have on next Saturday, which is scheduled at 6:30 p.m. on 24th, is dedicated to celebration of the International Yoga Day. And I read from the statement which our Prime Minister Narendra Modi made at the UN General Assembly, because it resonates so well with the truth that yoga embodies. He says, and I quote, "Yoga is an invaluable gift of India's ancient tradition. It embodies unity of mind and body, thought and action, restraint and fulfillment, harmony between man and nature, approach to health and well-being. It is not about exercise, but to discover the sense of oneness with yourself, the world, and the nature. By changing our lifestyle and creating consciousness, it can help in well-being." And it is in this spirit that we have organized our session today. And we couldn't have had anyone better than Sandeep ji to speak on the topic. Sandeep ji is an engineer from IIT Kanpur who has done his master's from IIT Bombay. He worked in the corporate sector for over 28 years with leading organizations that include Adobe Systems and Tata Steel. In his own words, he turned to yoga and Vedanta not because of his spiritual calling, but to battle the clinical depression which he suffered from for over 10 years. And it is truly a transformational journey. And today, Sandeep ji is actively working, spreading the knowledge of yoga and Vedanta to the community of over 6,000 people, which includes participants from India, USA, and many other countries of the world. Sandeep ji, we are truly blessed to have you with us today.
Namaskar, Ashish ji. Namaskar. Thank you very much for having me for this session and connecting me to your wonderful community of mindful living across different locations across India and abroad. And yeah, as you know, as the meaning of yoga is to connect, to bring together. Yoga
Yes.
verily connect. So in that spirit, I'm here, and whatever little I've learned, whatever little I know, I'll try to share with all these wonderful seekers. So thank you all for having me. I look forward.
Thank you, Sandeep ji. I'll just take a minute to introduce myself, as some of the members may be joining Mindful Living session for the first time. My name is Ashish Kumar, and I'm the founder of Mindful Living. I started Mindful Living in 2018 with a view to help over 1 million working professionals lead healthier, happier, and wealthier lives. Prior to starting Mindful Living, I worked in the corporate sector for over 25 years. And during the period of my working in the corporate sector, I saw how stressed the employees are in the while working, and that toll that it is taking on their health, happiness, and well-being. So with that mission to help the working professionals in the corporate sector lead healthier, happier, and wealthier lives, we started Mindful Living. And in the last 5 years, we have conducted over 300 sessions for over 50 leading organizations, which include companies like Aditya Birla Capital, Tata Group, PXL, IBM, Kotak Life, SDFC Life, and many others. The session today is being organized as a part of the Mindful Living Community Initiative, which started in April 2020 when the first lockdown happened. Few of my friends reached out to me requesting me to conduct a mindfulness session for them to deal with the stress and anxiety that the lockdown was causing. So over a weekend, we got together and practiced mindfulness. One thing led to other, And today we are a vibrant community of over 3,000 people who connect regularly to practice and live consciously. In case you would like to be a member of this vibrant community, please click on the link that we are sharing in the chat and join us. This is a community where there are no religious or political posts. We all respect each other, we are non-judgmental, we accept each other and freely share our experiences and questions about living consciously. So I urge you to click the link and join us. And before I hand over to Sandeepji, few groundkeeping rules. We will take question answers towards the end, but please stay actively engaged during the session and share your questions in the chat, clap, show love, appreciate whenever Sandeepji shares something. So stay actively engaged, keep your camera on, and make the most of this beautiful session. Over to you, Sandeepji.
Thank you, Ashishji. Thank you very much. And again, namaskar, everyone. Good morning, good evening to whichever part of the world you joined this session from. And so today's the topic that I've kept is something which is very dear to me, as Ashishji just when was talking about my journey and my experiences. I just mentioned about my whole journey, and that journey actually led me to explore the mind as such, the awareness, the emotions, the feelings, and what exactly the mind is, and what can be done to work on this mind, the most important tool through which we experience life. And it's been a long journey, very fulfilling journey, which has gotten me together with so many people. And so today's session, as it aptly described, the title as Yoga for Mental Health. Now, the first thing that would come to one's mind is that when we talk about yoga, we think about it as some form of an exercise or a therapy for physical health, right? And that is where we actually just stop. If you look at the very definition of yoga as enunciated by Maharishi Patanjali, some of you would have heard about Maharishi Patanjali. The yoga is actually a philosophy, by the way. We have this Shad Darshan, the six philosophies of the Sanatan Dharma. Yoga is one of them, yoga and sant. So yoga is not just an exercise, but it's actually much, much deep. So in fact, I fondly use this term, the 3 P's of yoga. Just as we have 5 P's of marketing: product, price, place, promotion, people, right? That's 5, if I'm correct. So similarly, I use this jargon in a way so that people from the corporate sector especially can relate very well to it. So the first P I call is that yoga is a philosophy. And just as any institution, just as any organization has a vision, this also has a vision. Yoga, I would say the vision of yoga and Vedanta. And what is it? Atyantik dukh nivritti param anand prapti. The cessation of the highest sorrow and attainment of the highest bliss. See, no vision can be greater than this. In any organization, no vision can be greater than this. So it's the highest philosophy, the highest vision. The second P, I say, is psychology. It is the deepest psychology. See, the psychology, as we know of, and it's a very amazing subject, psychology. I used to run away from psychology, but now it's one of my favorite subjects. But psychology essentially deals with our behavioral patterns, how we conduct our behavior, how we interact, how we react, how we communicate, how we engage with people. That is at a behavioral level, right? Outside. But And what is the psychology of yoga? The very definition, yoga chitta vritti nirodh. It goes to the root of our psyche, the emotions, and we'll just talk about it. And the third, of course, P is the practice, the most profound practice. What I say, for the mind through the body, and not just by the body and for the body. So the highest philosophy, the deepest psychology, and the most profound practice. So that's how I describe and relate with yoga. Now, coming to the very definition as expounded by Maharishi Patanjali, yoga chitta vritti nirodh. Just look at the definition. There's no mention of the body. It talks about chitta. I'll just briefly dwell upon this definition. It has a very deep connotation, but we will not be having the time to explore that very deep. The first term, of course, is yoga, and chit. The chit, one can say it's the mind, but if you look at the Vedantic definition of chit, they call it the inner instrumentation, the antahkaran. What our own this inner realm through which we experience life. So the mind, the intellect, the memories, the ego, all of that, emotions, feelings put together. Chit, nirodh is the cessation, the inhibition. And vritti, now vritti is a very interesting term. The technical definition, the technical meaning of vritti here is the modification of this mind. But we can take it as to do with all the upheavals, and not just upheavals, all the movements in the mind. You see, the reason for all, when this lady was mentioning, the mind is overworked. You see, all of our minds are overworked 24/7. Apart from the deep sleep state, even while we are sleeping, the dream, swapna, then also the mind is working. So apart from few hours of deep sleep, which is very scarce these days, unfortunately, the mind is working all the time. So the science, the philosophy, the practice, which helps in the cessation of this, the inhibition of this overworking mind, the mind literally calming down. And that is what yoga is about. Now, you would ask me that the first question would arise is, that being the definition, that being the objective of yoga, then what is the use of the asanas and the pranayam, the body at all? The best course of action would be to just sit down, meditate, right? Close your eyes, meditate. You have enough meditation techniques, and just calm the mind. That's it. It's very simple, very easy. We all do it. But those of you who have been meditating or have tried to meditate, would know how it is easier said than done, how difficult it is. Because the moment you shut your eyes, you just close your mind, and then for a moment you seem to be very blissful, but after just few moments, all this stream of thoughts, they just bombard you from left, right, and center, and you are bombarded from thoughts that have actually never really occurred to you, and you may be wondering, what's happened to my mind? So much so that after a few minutes, I remember many times, just open your eyes. At least the frequency of thought would decrease when you open your eyes. So that difficult it is to meditate. And the reason for that simply is, you see, the mind has to be literally trained to meditate. The mind also has to be trained to meditate. Don't just see by some estimate, and this estimate varies. The psychologists, they have measured, I don't know how they have done it, but by some estimates, you have around 20,000 to 80,000 thoughts per day. Not maybe just different thoughts, same thoughts repeating again and again and again and again and again. Just so 20,080 thoughts per day. So this is the state of the mind. It's all over the place. Now I'm just trying to literally bring it to some semblance of order. And what we try to do there is somehow close my mind and just hold the mind and bring it down. That's not what it happens. Because the more you try to bring and control the mind, the more vicious it becomes. Right? It comes back to you with that much more vengeance. There's a saying in Vedanta that monkey mind, right? The mind is a monkey. And before we go further, let me just quote Bhagavad Gita. What if you are all disillusioned with mind, and why it's so difficult to control the mind? See, Arjuna also had the same difficulty, exactly the same difficulty. So we are in good company. So don't worry. Now, in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 6 is about it's called Raj Yoga. But Bhagavad Gita is the most complete Vedanta scripture, not just a Vedantic scripture. It's in essence it has the essence of the Upanishads. You have Bhakti Yoga, you have Karma Yoga, you have Raj Yoga, and you have Jnana Yoga. So chapter 6 of Bhagavad Gita, I think there are 43 shlokas, 43 shlokas. And in that, Sri Krishna is giving, preaching his most beloved disciple, Arjun, about the part of meditation and how to regulate and control the mind. So the first 33 shlokas, Krishna tells him all about meditation, what meditation is, how much you meditate, and then closing your eyes and bringing your attention to the tip of the nostrils, nasika, and meditating on it. So Arjun, being a very dutiful devotee, listens very attentively, and in shlok number 6.34, the 34th shlok, when the time comes for Arjun Upvaj, he literally disagrees with Sri Krishna. And what he says is that you are telling me to meditate, which is literally to control, regulate the mind. The mind is even more fickle than the wind. The wind, see, if I, at least in this room, which has these 4 windows enclosed, at least in this area, the wind is enclosed. I can enclose it. But the mind is even more fickle. The mind can wander everywhere, anywhere. Tell me, how do I regulate such a fickle mind? How do I meditate? And then he goes on to describe what the mind is. And I would say this: the definition, the description that Arjun gives about the mind, you will not find it anywhere. It's so deep, it is so subtle, it is so complete, it's so perfect. So he gives four reasons, Arjun, why he tells about the 4 traits of the mind in defense of his argument. So he says that the first thing he says, the mind is restless. Chanchala manah. The mind is restless by its own nature. By its own, very own nature, the mind is restless. Thoughts, feelings, emotions, just bombarding it every moment. And the second, it says, it's not just restless, it is turbulent. You see, if the mind is restless, let's say it's restless, but the restlessness is like gentle waves on the ocean, surface of the ocean, like a sine curve, that for some time you feel happy, and so some time you feel unhappy, and then just goes up and down, gently up and down. That's fine. It'll just cancel out, and it'll be okay. Not that bad. But that is not how the mind is. It's not gentle waves. You have tsunamis, literally. It says it's not just restless, gentle restlessness. It is turbulent. It is turbulent. Right? So restless. That is one. Second, it is turbulent. It has got tsunamis. And there's some disturbance.
Yeah, there is turbulence from, I think,
Yeah.
Ramesh Veerasamy.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. So here's it is restless. It is turbulent. And the third thing it says is it's stubborn. It is stubborn. So it is restless. It is turbulent. It is stubborn. Now you think of a child that could be restless. It has got turbulent emotions and is stubborn. The child is very stubborn. Still, you can somehow placate that child, show that child the stars, give him some toys or ice cream, and you can control and regulate the emotions of the child. But then what Arjun says, it's not just stubborn. It is not a child. It's not a small child that you can control so easily. It is strong. It is dridam. Dridam is stubborn. It is balvant, strong. It is not a small child. It's an elephant. It's big. It is strong. And therefore, it is virtually impossible to control the mind. You see, such a beautiful exposition about the mind and its vagaries, one of the best which they've actually found. No doubt, Bhagavad Gita is a complete scripture. So that's what Arjun says. Now, in the next sloka, 6.35, and Krishna responds, and Krishna being the wonderful teacher that he was, and what is the trait of a good teacher? A good teacher is empathetic. Empathy, he's got empathy, and he's got good listening skills. If he were someone like me, he would have said, "Oh, I've given you enough. I've given you all the knowledge. Just go back and just revise whatever I've told you in the 33 shlokas, and then you come back to me." But that's not what Krishna says. The Krishna says, undoubtedly, asanshayam. What you say is exactly what it is. But and then the thanks again. Then what Krishna does is to motivate Arjun. And what he says is, Mahabanu Arjun, you have won many a battles. How could you be defeated by your own mind? And then, see, the first is to listen. Is listens, then he motivates, and the third he gives a solution. And those of you who might be thinking that Sri Krishna gives a magic wand would be disillusioned, because all that he says is just two things. It can be done by abhyas and vairag. And abhyas literally means repeating. Right? Now let me just try to explain. Now those of you might be wondering, what is abhyas and what is so difficult about the mind? There's a very good book called The Happiness Hypothesis by a psychologist called Jonathan Haidt. He's an American psychologist, and this book is based upon he studied in India, and in that he's got a chapter in which he gives a very nice parable about the elephant and the Mahabharat. It's an Indian parable, and what he says is he makes a very compelling statement. Sorry, what he says is that why is it so difficult to control the mind? See, despite having attended all the great lectures, despite having listened to the sermons, despite having read through so many books, despite having known the mind, despite having known that worrying is not the solution, why do we still worry? Why do we still desire? And why is it really so difficult to control the mind? So he gives a very nice example, that of an elephant and a Mahabhat. Now, the elephant, we know the elephant is a very gentle animal when it's trained, but it can be very, very dangerous if it's a wild elephant. We know it can just about crush anyone and everything in its path. And how does the elephant become gentle? By training. And who trains it? The little Mahabhat sitting up there. And how does it train? How does a Mahabhat train elephant? By continuously training the elephant to follow his instructions. Right now, the interesting part, most of you might be wondering, what does elephant have to do with it? That he says the elephant is our mind. It is very strong, it is very stubborn. The only thing to which the elephant responds is the training. And that little Mahabhat over there is like our intellect. So when we say we know the mind, it is the little intellect knows the mind. But the elephant is still not bought in. And what does the elephant do? The mind does. It just holds its little intellect over there and just throws it away. All the knowledge that this mind has, the intellect has, it is of no use because the mind is not bought in. The mind just tells the intellect, you signed up for all these things, the training. You do it. I'm not going to do it. So what is the important thing is, what I'm trying to emphasize upon is the mind has to be trained gradually, very little by little, has to be trained gradually, slowly and patiently. Good. So now, having known why this practice is so important, we come back to the original question. That why at all the asanas and this pranayam? Why then that just a meditation? And as we just talked about, it is the mind has to be literally trained to meditate. It has to be brought to that level. And here the asanas and pranayam help us. Now this whole of Ashtanga Yoga, I know some of you would have read about Ashtanga Yoga, known Ashtanga Yoga. By the way, Ashtanga Yoga is not a form of yogic exercise. You see, I ask many people and they will tell you, I am learning Ashtanga Yoga. I mean, that is height of ignorance. People are just fooling many of these institutes and trainers who are training yoga. They're telling you they're teaching you Ashtanga Yoga. Ashtanga Yoga is not a form of asana, it's not a form of exercise. Ashtanga Yoga is the entire philosophy of yoga, the whole evolution from yam niyam to samadhi. It's not just a form of exercise. So Ashtanga, yeah, I'm looking at the watch, I've got 15 minutes. 8 ang limbs. First, of course, is yam and niyam. And what is the third? Asan, pranayam, pratyahar. And then comes dharana. Dhyan, samadhi. You see? Dharana, dhyan, samadhi comes at the end. It starts with asan, pranayam, pratyahar, dharana, dhyan, samadhi. So what does Patanjali say? That gradually you evolve, the yogi evolves to that state. Okay, Hatha Yoga, someone asked me, we will talk about it when we have the time. Now, then you would say, but asana is just for the body. How does it really help the mind? There exactly lies the whole mystery and the enigma about the asana. You know how Maharishi Patanjali describes an asana? Sthir sukham asanam. See, what is the first term he uses? Sthirta. He doesn't talk about the movement and the stretching and the pulling of the body in the asanas. Sthirta is what he says. So that's the first sutra about the asanas. The second sutra is prayatana. Prayatana, effort. Shathalya. Shathalya is literally relinquishing the effort after having made the effort. Prayatana, Shathalya, and then he says something amazing. Ananta samapatti bhaya. Anant, we all know infinity. Samapatti bhaya is to literally meditate in the asana. So prayatana, Shathalya, Ananta samapatti bhaya. So the sthir sukham asana that Patanjali talks about is the sthirta, the stillness that you evolve to when you first energize and stretch the body, whatever the asana is, and then you relinquish, let go of all the effort, and you literally meditate on the posture, in the posture. So you're not, and so we will look at this flavor in the next session. Now, what do we mean by this? So we just listen to this, just try to absorb this, and then we practice this in the next session. We'll get some flavor of what this is. So sthiram, and see when you become, and what is it? The whole science of it, you may wonder. No, this is what it is. When your mind is restless, it's turbulent. How is your breathing? When the mind is turbulent, the mind is restless. How is your breath? Your breath is also restless, turbulent. You're breathing heavily, and the body is also restless, isn't it? So when the mind is restless, breath is restless. Actually, it's not the breath; it's the prana, of which this breath is the manifestation, and the body is restless, right? And so is the converse, which is when the body is restless, the breath, the prana is restless, and so is the mind. And this is the brilliant connection, very intricate connection of the mind, the prana, and the body, which the yogis discovered, and that is what they have built into the asana. Now the thing here is, what is the connection? The connection is very interesting. We've all seen it is very difficult to control the mind, right? So instead of trying to control the mind through the meditation, what we essentially normally do, what the yogis say, what the Patanjali says, you work through the body. See, this is a brilliant workaround. Those of you who are in the IT industry, many times the software that we have may not be having the workflow which the customers require. So what do? We give them a workaround. And this is the most brilliant workaround. And Swami Vivekananda, he made a very interesting comment in this regard. By the way, Swami Vivekananda, will normally think of him as just a Vedantin, but he was one of the greatest philosophers that we have had, apart from being a great spiritual leader and spiritual teacher. He talked not just Vedanta, but he was the first one who introduced the philosophy of yoga to the West. His commentary on the Patanjali Yoga Sutra that he wrote way back in the 1890s. So he talked about yoga also, by the way. And when he was talking about yoga, when he was introducing yoga, this is what he said. It is easier, it is difficult to grapple with the mind. See the word that he uses? It is difficult to grapple with the mind. It's difficult to hold the mind. It is easier to grapple with the breath, the prana. It is easier to grapple with the body. So use the body. So through the asanas, you make the body still. Then what happens? When the body becomes still, the prana also becomes still, the mind becomes calm and still. See, when your breath is gentle, calm, the mind becomes calm, right? So that's what it is. So it's the first is asana, then comes pranayam. You see, many of us think pranayam is just a simple breathing exercise. Pranayam is not a breathing exercise, right? This is a very, very big misconception. And unfortunately, wherever you go, whenever you go, people talk about pranayam as a breathing exercise. It is very, very unfortunate. Just look at the term itself. It says pranayam. This is not about shwasayam, right? Pranayam. Yes, through the breath we regulate this pran, and then that we talk about. Now, in fact, this is not what I'm saying. This is what, again, Swami Vivekananda said when he introduced pranayam. And what did he say in his lecture on Raj Yoga? Pranayam is not a breathing exercise. Then he goes on to qualify it. It has very little to do with breath, if anything, and that would actually surprise you. Breath is one of the ways to work at the pran and to connect with the pran, right? So pranayam is not a breathing exercise. And you see, pranayam comes after asana. The real yoga starts with pranayam. If you ask these yogis, I was listening to a lecture by Swami Niranjanand Saraswati, who's the director of the current director and the Acharya of Bihar School of Yoga in Munger. Real yoga starts with pranayam, right? And what is pranayam? I'll just got a few minutes. Pranayam is not a breathing exercise, right? And when you regulate the prana through the breath, the mind becomes calm through the breath, right? You literally hold the breath, and it's a very nice way, a very nice Vedantic phrase, which says that mind is a monkey which rides on the horse called breath. I would say the horse called pran, not breath. So, and I add to it, it rides on a horse, the breath, which is the that rein of the horse, through which we do this pranayam, and also the body. I also add the body through which we do the asanas. But this is very interesting. You see, I'm not trying to rein in this monkey directly. We all know the moment you try to hold this monkey, it becomes much more violent. So you hold the reins of this monkey through the prana, the breath, and the body, the asanas. You would have all seen that the subtler your breath, the subtler is the mind, right? Chale vata chale chittam is a very nice expression. When your breath moves, when there's a restlessness in your breath, your prana, there's a restlessness in your mind. So when you regulate your body through the asanas, and asanas practice with awareness, we will look at what that means in the next session. And pranayam, subsequently, the mind gets reined in. And then comes, see, after asana, pranayam, and then comes pratyahar. 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 So ahar means the food for the senses. Not just the food that we eat, but the food that we gather from the senses. And literally the food that we feed to the mind, the thoughts. And pratyahar means inversion of the senses. Through the regulated practice of pranayam, deeper and deeper, as you evolve gradually, as a yogi evolves gradually, the senses, they get reined in. Pratyahar starts to happen. You see, one of the biggest disturbance and impediment to meditation is my own senses, which keep on, the very tendency of the senses is to go out. At the drop of the hat, your senses, they get pulled away into the world. So pratyahara is very important. You see that, look at this Ashtanga Yoga, it's so very scientific, logical and scientific. So yam, niyam, asana, pranayam, pratyahara. Then he comes to dharana. Dharana means, then the concentration starts to happen, you see. The mind now starts to get trained to be in that state of quietude. You can sit, then you can just, in fact, we will also look at this. When you do the asanas and pranayam, as I've written in my note also, it effortlessly evolves you to a state of meditation. Just evolves you to the state of meditation. Just go into that state, and then the meditation becomes very natural, very easy. So dharana, that concentration, you can concentrate, you can put your attention on one thought, on one object as you meditate on it. That's it. This is called the yogic meditation. And then dhyan. See, from dharana, then you start to meditate, dhyan, and samadhi is that culmination of the meditation, the highest. Savikalp samadhi and then nirvikalp samadhi. One very nice way, some of you would ask, what is the difference between dharana, dhyan, samadhi? Samadhi, as you know, it's a culmination. One very a very objective way in which it has been described in one of the Purans called Kurma Puran, and this was also quoted by Swami Vivekananda. What that says is, if I am able to hold my attention on one thought, one object for 12 seconds without any distraction, that is dharana. And when I can hold it for 12 dharana, that is dhyan. 12 dharana is dhyan, which means 12 into 12, 144 seconds. And again, 12 dhyan is samadhi. So 12 into 2.5 minutes, 30 minutes. So 30 minutes, then that's an objective definition. I can just be with that one thought, on attention on just one object. That is the culmination, the highest samadhi. So that is in a nutshell about this whole Ashtanga Yoga, and what a mind is, what a vagaries of the mind is, why is it so difficult to regulate and control the mind, and this whole, and then about the restlessness of the mind, the dialogue between Krishna and Arjun, and we saw the importance of practice, abhyas. And see, abhyas literally means practice, repeating it again and again and again. And then we talked about this Ashtanga Yoga, right? How it is so difficult to grapple with the mind, it's easy to grapple with the body, with the pran, with the breath, and then through the asanas, through the pran, you lead to pratyahara, then dharana, dhyan, and samadhi. And in the next session, we will put these concepts to practical use and see how this really works, how through the asanas, how through the pranayam, we effortlessly evolve the state of meditation, right? So with that, I'll just stop here. And if there are any questions, any comments and observations, I'll be happy to engage.
What a powerful, mind-blowing session, Sandeepji. Shrikantji, just give us a second or so, and then we will open up the session for question and answers. This was truly a mind-blowing session, and I'll urge you to ask questions or share your comments, and I'll share mine towards the end of the session. But before all of that, I'll request you to please fill out this feedback form, which will take you less than 30 seconds. and help us get some feedback. We have been getting feedback on the chat, direct one-to-one and also otherwise, but please fill out this form. And once you have filled out this feedback form, please type FD in the chat box. And I would truly urge you to share one takeaway that you have from the session. It was in the session today, Sandeep ji has made some very complex subjects become simple for us. And that is something which I love about Sandeep ji. He makes very complex things sound simple and understandable. Yes, Dr. Sumana, we will take your comments. Please fill out the feedback form and type FD in the chat.
Yeah, good evening. So the first most important thing he explained is yoga is for mind through body. That was a very powerful sentence.
Yeah.
For mind through body. And then he explained all the things of mind. That is, it's restless, there are turbulences, and then it is stubborn.
Thank you.
So
Thank you for
this explanation was very good.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that, Dr. Sumarna. Do you also have a question?
No, actually I have a curiosity, like how we are going to practice in the next session. That's my curiosity.
Okay. Sure. Sandeep, would you like to address that?
Yeah. So what firstly, it's very heartening to listen to you, and the fact that you were able to relate to the aspect of the mind, which is important for the mind through the body. Yeah, that is what that's the expression which guides my whatever I teach now. So today we just learned about these sutras from Patanjali about the asana, and we also expound the sutra about the pranayam. And then what we will do is we will do a very simple, I won't even say an asana, it'll just be a very gradual energization of the body. And through that, we will look at those elements of the asana. When we say asana through the body for the mind, so the way I practice an asana is what I call with the awareness, which means that I'm not doing the asana just as a form or a stretching, that somehow you go into an asana, you do mandukasana, you do bhujangasana, and you do Virabhadrasana. What I say is you meditate in the asana. See what Patanjali said? Ananta Samapadevya. So you first energize, and we look at those elements, then you will appreciate. First you energize, and then you let go of the effort. Shatalya. Shatal is a very technical term. It says shatalya. You energize and now you let go. Sthirta. And when you become still, the awareness literally comes to the fore. And then I'll just show it to you when you meditate on the body, on the sensations of the body. This is what I've borrowed from the Buddhists, right? So what I call an asana, the way I practice asana, is the practice of yoga, the consciousness of Vedanta, the awareness, the consciousness of Vedanta, and the awareness of Buddhism. Aware of the asana, aware of the energy. So the mind, the body, the prana, it all gets integrated into one. And that becomes meditation in the asana. See this?
That's
what it is.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for
sharing. There is one
that.
question also. I have one question.
Dr. Swana, please hold. Mr. Srikanth also would like to ask.
Thank you,
Yes,
Ashish ji. Sandeep ji, thanks a lot for a wonderful session. You made quite a complex thing to look so simple. And my because of some internet problem, I missed a couple of things in between. Sorry to disturb you for repeating maybe a couple of things. As Arjuna brings out that the mind is restless like waves, turbulent like cyclone, stubborn like child, and strong like elephant. Then you said Krishna said how to handle that. In that you started with abhyas, and then was there any other way to handle it other than abhyas, which I missed?
Okay. Thank you, Group Captain, and it's good you actually noted down all those 4 points. By the way, in that shlok, he doesn't say restless like a child. There was a thing that which I just added to that try to explain. Right, that is not part of Bhagavad Gita. Right. So, and when Krishna answers Arjun, the first thing he says, the most important thing he says is asanshayam. Undoubtedly, that's the most important thing. That this is the very nature of the mind. That's the first important thing he says, and then he motivates Arjun. How can you be defeated by your own mind? And then the third, and the 2 things which he says is, one is abhyas, correctly practice, and the second he says vairagya. Now vairagya is not literally just giving up everything and going to a jungle, but literally working at a level of your desires. Now let me just give you a little explanation of why working on your desires is also important. I'll just take 2 minutes. Save time, Ashishji. But it's
Sure.
interesting.
We have about 10 minutes.
Why does Krishna say vairagya also? So I'll just mention a very nice anecdote of Paramahansa Ramakrishna. See, Paramahansa Ramakrishna was a very simple term, but the anecdotes that he used was very simple and very powerful. So he used them very often to teach. And one anecdote he uses is he tells about a story that there were 4 friends who came from a village to Kolkata to party. They go out and they drink and they make merry. They came by boat. In those days that was a mode of transport. And when the night fell, they again came back, boarded the boat, and they started rowing it to travel back. They kept on rowing, and when the sun rose, they saw, to their amazement, astonishment, they were still tied to that piece of log of wood. The boat was still tethered to that. And you see what happened was, since they were drunk, they forgot to untie, and they were just rowing it. Now that is what Paramahansa Ramakrishna says why vairagya is important. You can keep on practicing, you can keep on practicing, you can keep on practicing, I can keep on meditating, but if I consciously don't work at the level of my desires, the progress will be very difficult and very slow. So you have to unburden your desires also a little bit, and then combine it with practice. For what he says is, for best results, also have at least some level of vairagya along with abhyas.
Thank you so much. That's why I said you made it so simple. Otherwise, probably I wouldn't have been able to make out the difference between restlessness, turbulent, and stubborn and strong. With that example you quoted, which I noted, it became so easy and to understand.
Beautiful.
Then the second one is like you mentioned about dharana, dhyan, and samadhi. Before that, you just mentioned mind is a monkey which rides on a horse. The prana, which is like a horse, not the breath per se. Then you mentioned niyam, and some 2-3 points. Meanwhile, I missed it.
Yeah, that's it. That Ashtang Yoga, yam, niyam, asan, pranayam, pratyahar, dharana, dhyan, samadhi, and this is the whole evolution. See, yam and niyam, you have to have some sort of conduct. Without that, you can't even. Your mind will be so restless if you are engaged in all that things, you'll not even qualify for that. So yam niyam, asan, pranayam, pratyahar, dharana, dhyan, samadhi. And that's what I tried to explain, how asan and then pranayam, pratyahar. And you will see that in the next session, how the asans practice with awareness, literally, and pranayam, hold your mind. Thank you.
Thank you,
Nice
sir.
questions.
Made it so clear.
Thank you so much, Group Captain Srikanth. Anybody else has a question or comment, we'll be happy to hear from you. Please share your takeaways. That will help everybody. And while you are coming up with your responses, I'll share what I found truly mind-blowing was the mathematical definition which Sandeep ji gave. And that is something which I love about engineers. Dharana is if you hold a thought for 12 seconds, and when you do that 12 times, it becomes dhyan. And when you do that for 12 times, it becomes samadhi. Wow, that was so completely mind-blowing. I found that very, very amazing.
That is not my definition, that I learned from Swami Vivekananda quoting Kurmu Puran.
That was good. That was very, very good. Anybody else has a question or comment? Will be yes, Dr. Nupur.
Hello, Ashish, and a very good evening to Mr. Sandeep Nigam. It was a very, very beautiful session, sir. Really, really amazing. And as a mindfulness teacher, I can say that everything that you spoke has now been adopted in the form of a very active meditative practice that I'm a teacher of also mindfulness. And all of these are what we teach. A specific point to what you talked about, vairagya. That is so beautiful because in mindfulness, we talk about releasing expectations and non-attachment to the result. And otherwise, it kind of becomes a dog chasing its tail, and it is an unending process. So that, I think, is one of the highest teachings, non-attachment and surrendering the expectations and results, and so beautifully expressed in our Sanskrit language as vairagya. Totally enamored by your teachings, sir, and always take back something profound that helps us also. Ashish and me both are mindfulness teachers, so this is something that really deeply resonates. Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, Nupur. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that, Dr. Nupur. And friends, we'll be bringing the session to a close. You may unmute yourself and make some noise on your way out. As I shared, our next session, the concluding part of the series to celebrate International Yoga Day, is scheduled at 6:30 p.m. on next Saturday, 24th of June. We'll be sending a mail. A lot of you have requested us for the recording, so we'll be sending the recording link to the recording over an email with the coordinates of Mr. Sandeep ji. So for those of you who would like to stay in touch with Sandeep ji, connect with him, benefit from his counseling, from his advice, you can reach out to him. Once again, thank you everybody for joining us. Thank you, Sandeep ji, for joining us and sharing these mind-blowing insights with us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Wonderful session.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Dhanyavad. Thank you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sandeep ji.
Thank you very much.